Why not?
Really.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Fun Show. Please, Maestro.
I can't remember a song.
With a song in my heart, but not on his
I got it,
fingertips.
right.
There he goes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the August 29th edition of the Fun Show here at Big TV. August 29th, the final Monday of August this year.
And the final show of the
Which
summer.
means this is the last gasp of summer. I already saw moving trucks all over the streets today.
Oh, we did.
Kids seem to be getting an early start on moving in.
Yeah.
I had to take a corner. I couldn't see around it. There was a truck the size of the Pentagon parked right on the corner. I couldn't see around them. Anyway, it's coming. We all live through it.
Every year.
The September 1st influx of things. The handsome gentleman behind the Kira keyboard over there is
handsome,
Michael
boy.
Sallin.
But
I'm
here's
Arch O'Reilly.
She's a beautiful young
And
lady.
our stalwart from before, Susan Harrington. There she is. Hello. She says, we gave Susan a pile of clippings, and strangely enough, she's sitting there reading them.
Well, she's trying to find things that she might want to bring up.
All right, well, let me start with the fact that, once more, let me remind you that, oddly enough, on Thursday, September 8th, there will be a state primary election. There will be relatively little on the ballot, and it's being a Thursday. I'm not sure what kind of turnout we'll have, but I would like you to go and vote. And you could consider that your vote will have more weight than usual because of the small turnout. The only thing of interest on the ballot that I really could find in Brookline this time around is one Peter Giorgio, a former member of Michael Dukakis' staff, who is running for the position of governor's counsel. And this gentleman seems to have a real impression as to what the function of governor's counsel is. The only thing that's left for governor's counselors to do is to pass on judicial appointments. And unfortunately, most of the people who take this low-end, little-known elective office have no credentials at all to pass on judges, and this fellow does. So, and the person who's the incumbent should have been unincumbent about 10 years ago. So I ask you to consider going out or going down to town hall and getting an absentee ballot. This is the first time in Massachusetts that we're doing actually early voting. I think 11 days before the election, which means what, like today or something, you don't have to have an excuse to get an absentee ballot.
Right.
You know, the funny thing, you go an absentee ballot and they say, well, you know, are you going to be out of town? Are you sick, or in your nursing home or something? And it was sort of like old-time divorces, you know. You made up an excuse and they went wink, wink and gave it to you. Now that's been removed.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to go down to town hall and vote anytime between now and September 8th, you can do so. And I'm asking you to consider voting for Peter Giorgio when you do that. Now, on a less happy note,
Okay.
we note the passing of
Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
Gene Wilder, one of Mel Brooks' favorite actors.
Yeah.
It was Gene that saved a lot of those films and scripts that he wrote.
He was in The Producers, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, yes.
That was a Disney, but the others were...
He was Willy Wonka, right?
Yeah.
And then what wasn't that?
Actually, the book is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but when you have a big name in that
Star,
role...
you give him a bigger
There you go,
name.
you change the title.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
There's
The book is
another-
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Is the charter school
I
business
never
going
read that one to my kids, actually.
Is the charter school coming up on this at all?
No, that's
That's a heck of a
November.
segment.
November.
That's November 8th.
Okay, all right.
there are, I think, 4 initiative petitions coming up in November, which half the people who go to vote against Donald Trump will neglect to notice that they're initiative petitions. And one of them is this thing, and I must say that the ads pro and con on the expansion of charter schools ads that are running, I can't tell which side is which. They both claim that they'll produce more money for public education. And the interesting thing about that is that they're both lying.
Teachers Union, Boston Teachers Union has a full page in its newspaper. Vote no on number 2.
But the thing is that their arguments, they're both lies on both sides.
Yeah.
So
money. Both sides are talking about money.
For themselves.
Yeah, well.
For themselves. No, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
You know, the public school teachers, the conventional public school teachers, don't want any money going out to other schools. And the corporate education people, which is what the charter schools are by and large, they want their chunk of the public money. And for either side to contend that more schools will mean more money is ridiculous. You know, they're just going to take it out of one pocket and shove it in another pocket.
The thing is,
and the more hands in the pocket, the less money goes to the kids.
Right.
See, he sees it as something about money. Basically, this is the guy who's the president of the teachers union,
who we're so fond of.
Yeah, but it's I see the
Don't faint there, Susan.
I see the charter schools as competition for Boston and other big cities across the state.
Of course, that's what they are.
Yeah, well, that's he can't face that. He got a union school staffed with all people who volunteered from the teachers union. I don't know the name of it anymore, and he never talks about it, so I guess it's been disbanded. Anyways, go ahead. What else?
I'm tempted to say, you mean he found enough union teachers interested in teaching that they were enough to
they didn't like being there because they had to do everything. Any decisions couldn't be made by a principal or an assistant principal.
Well, I have a wonderful quote here today. There's a fairly well-known, or maybe not all that well-known, but established Republican commentator on television, on the news, by the name of Ana Navarro.
Oh, boy.
And Ana Navarro, on television, I think today or perhaps yesterday, she really summed up the current situation. She said, and I quote, "It's not a question of his being unfit to be president. Trump is unfit to be human."
Not bad. Okay.
And that's a Republican.
Now there's a snake out in West.
Speaking of snakes.
Speaking of snakes, yeah. Segue. Yeah. The snake is where?
Well, it could be the snake could be on television for all we know, but I won't get into that. Westbrook, Maine.
Yeah.
Is this the one that they haven't seen the snake, but they saw the skin that it shed, and it was like 15 feet long or something?
But somebody else saw the snake.
Wow. Legend of Wessie, snake on the loose.
Wessie.
10-foot long.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You never think about the fact that snakes, I think it's about annually they shed their skin. I guess if they're growing slowly, they don't. But periodically they shed their skin, and this is a way to count the number of snakes in your neighborhood. But when you all of a sudden come across one 10 feet long and nobody's ever reported a snake, you know,
missing.
Say, this is a pretty sneaky snake.
Why do people buy these animals, and then they let them go? Why do they do things like that? It's cruel. And we all, in effect, belong to this humane society. You know, when they take cats and dogs and other animals.
Snakes are a little bit like fish are. You know, fish will grow to the size of the body of water that they're in.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law used to get goldfish and she'd keep them in the house in the wintertime. In the summertime, they had what looked like a large, like, wishing well outside.
Oh.
And she'd put the fish in the wishing well for the summer. And come the end of the summer, she had it in mind to move the fish back inside. But the problem was the little fish that were this big when she put them in there were now like this, and you couldn't get them in.
So you can acclimate a house goldfish to the.
If you put the regular goldfish you buy your children in a little bowl, if you put them in a koi pond, they'll big carp.
If you put them in a bathtub,
They're the same fish.
Oh.
But if you keep them in a bowl, they won't grow.
they don't grow.
Oh wow!
They will grow to the size. And snakes are a little bit like that. If you
Like boa
keep-
constrictors are like that. We had someone who decided in our dorm in college that she should have one.
I
And then this
need
joker
one.
came down the hallway. You talk about, we tried killing her with that thing. And then she was supposed to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And then the next year, someone in the dorm pulled the drawer out
And
to
it
get
was
their
in
sweater
there?
out. No, it had shedded skin.
Oh, yeah.
And you talk about the screaming and the Adam was back there.
They weren't too comfortable with it there, huh?
Well, here's a guy named Trevor Price.
Trevor Price.
Trevor Price, he, let's see, I think it was, 14 years he was in the NFL as one of those backs, defensive backs.
Yes, okay.
Okay. And he was content and he retired.
Yeah. He got 2 Super Bowl rings, didn't he?
What?
He got 2 Super Bowl rings.
Oh, you got that
Yeah,
thing.
you got it right here.
Yeah, good. Well, right,
So what's
read
the story?
about him.
Go ahead.
No,
what's the
you-
story?
you-
He
No,
went to work-
now he's doing this thing in Hollywood where he has an animated cartoon about frogs.
About frogs.
Yeah, it's this
And he
thing
sold
called
13 segments.
Kulapari
He produced.
on Netflix.
Well, I mean, the thing is, NFL football players, unlike most professional sports people, most of them have college degrees or pretty close to college degrees. Talking about former players, the other sad
Is
news
Schilling got
is
a college
Bill
degree?
Lenkitis.
Is Schilling
Bill Lenkitis, the
dentist?
Dr. Bill, a practicing dentist who for many years was the starting center
the
next
Patriots.
to John Hanna, the best lineman ever to play for the thing,
Patriots.
just
Well, who's the
passed
one that
away,
was the Red Sox that
unfortunately.
became a dentist?
Huh?
Wasn't there a Red Sox?
A pitcher.
Lombard,
That's
Bill
what I was gonna-
Lombard.
Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I think it was
Someone-
Bill.
He was
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
pitcher too. Yeah.
He was, except that he was horsing around in I think it was 1967. He was horsing around, injured himself, and wasn't able to pitch in the World Series in '67. You know how long it had been since we'd been in the World Series. So that was kind of a sad thing to happen. Incidentally, on another track on sports, which Kira would object to, we're limited how much sports we can talk
okay.
when Kira is here. With Susan, we're allowed to speak sports. A lot of people have forgotten because they sort of closed their mind on the Olympics when the normal Olympians went home. However, the Paralympics in Rio begin on September 7th. So,
So will they have the water and things cleaned up by that time?
of course not.
Are you kidding? Why would they have? They got 120,000 seats in this stadium there. They're renting it out for birthdays and weddings.
Yeah, I saw.
It was in the paper.
Well, I need at least that much for my wedding.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Of course, I'm selling tickets.
Yeah.
I don't know how well.
And do the Paralympics last 2 weeks as well?
I think the Paralympics probably last a week or so.
Oh.
Well,
So
okay.
I don't really know.
Close.
But I would assume that like kayaking would be pretty good in the Paralympics, and one thing and another. Obviously, Michael is thinking that it's time for us to do this evening's presentation of the Big TV Unrehearsed Thespian Society. And once again, believe it or not, we are presenting something that has yet to even see the vault. It has not been stored anywhere. It is a brand new work of art, and it's even topical. This evening's production is entitled Conventionitis.
Okay.
I assume that you can relate to that.
that.
Conventionitis, action. So, did you watch last night?
Watch what?
The Republican unsocial meeting.
Did you?
Country music was better.
So you didn't watch?
Yeah, well, I like Trump. I don't know.
Yeah. And you found a better program.
When they nominate him, I'll watch. Ugh.
Hillary is next week.
I'm sick of politics.
Yeah, a couple of days after Brexit. Brexit.
Yeah, and the Queen offers the Prime Minister job to Mrs. May, just like that.
Yeah, pretty fast even for the Brits.
Our process is endless.
Don't you get tired of watching?
Sick of name calling and scandal.
Gotta make America great again.
And build that wall right on the border.
What about the 12 million illegals or undocumented?
All those ships in San Diego.
Yeah, the mothballed ones. Yeah.
You know, you two are crazier than the Donald.
We do need big changes in Washington, D.C.
And an end to our wars in the Middle East.
And no more deployments. Yeah,
Bring all your guys home.
Now you're talking my language, partner.
Obama can return gracefully.
And what about the conventions?
The party nomination?
Who doesn't know the answers to that?
Sure. Well, Johnson and Vice President Weld are there.
Always with
But
the
the
joke.
jokes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, why can't libertarians upset the apple cart?
Oh, cut the kidding.
Well, it never happened, I guess.
You come up with a real-world scenario now.
Who expected that Trump could be nominated?
Did Melania plagiarize her speech?
I don't know, but Michelle spoke it in 2012.
It is all about the speechwriters.
Who cares?
Yeah, well, at least she was serious.
So was Michelle.
Anyhow, tonight's speakers are special.
I think I still prefer a rerun of Mary Poppins.
Wise guy.
What will all those orators have to say?
America is already great.
And it's gonna be greater.
Anything about background checks?
What, to buy guns?
Impossible.
NRA members will boo.
But these folks have talks about plans after the election.
Where does that idea come from?
People want to know what's coming.
Well, I know there'll be post-election parties.
The swearing in of the new president.
You're getting ahead of me.
And we haven't even mentioned Obamacare.
Medicare and Medicaid.
Social Security, tax reductions.
Tax raises on the 1%.
So we can deal with the infrastructure.
Hold on. Don't rush things.
Candidates have to put some red meat on the table.
Oh, come on. What do you think? This is a cookout, partner?
Won't voters be curious?
What to do with Clinton and Trump's? What do they stand for, anyways?
The Donald promises we'll all be safer.
Hillary wants all citizens to be eligible to vote.
Novel idea.
Well, improve schools. All the kids should succeed.
And we're going to help Biden raise money to fight cancer.
And make certain we can all drink unleaded water.
Better facilities for the mentally ill.
We got to repair some roads and bridges, maybe a higher gas tax.
Yeah, but put unemployed people to work.
Country must deal with race relations.
You expect to hear any of this mush from the podium?
It's all vitally important.
Probably critical.
And nobody even talked about transition teams.
How about President Obama's library?
Not this week, dummy.
Yeah, I guess.
And there's animal welfare.
Wow.
I wish I could go to a nice, restful summer camp.
Here, here.
You mean take a vacation?
Oh, do Americans still do that?
How nostalgic.
And it's been an exhausting year.
Too much breaking news.
Turkey had a failed army coup.
Too many people being killed.
And what's the United Nations doing?
Deploring tragic events and collecting their salaries.
Well, I think it's time for the UN Army.
Good.
But everybody already has armies, Marines, and Air Forces.
Still, the world turns to us.
Look, we can't protect the whole world.
Is that like making America great again?
Yes, but we've already done that.
Careful, rapids ahead.
North Africans swarming into Europe.
It seems like wars keep breaking out.
And then there's all those families fleeing violence in Central America.
Starvation in Venezuela?
Ideology has consequences.
Will the candidates address any of these issues?
I doubt it.
And the attitude of these delegates?
Let's just name our president and get out of here.
The other stuff will come later.
The funny hats and balloons were great.
Would Tom Brady have come?
They should have invited more comedians. Blackout.
Okay, somebody explain to me, because I'm really not clear on what Brexit is. I mean,
Brexit was Great Britain voting to leave the European Union.
Yeah, but what was that?
The word is British and exit.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And it's short,
but I mean, what
they wanted to get out of it.
Well, the guy who was behind that, Trump had down in Mississippi with him last week, making an appearance. It's idiocy, and it was ignorance on the fly. And ironically, the former mayor of London, who was the principal spokesman for it, looks like a Saturday night imitation of Trump. He has the same bad hair, the same figure.
The same tan.
He looks like a joke Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt England a great deal. And it is entirely possible, although not certain, that it will break up the United Kingdom. Because Scotland and Northern Ireland both voted to stay in.
Okay. What about Wales?
Wales voted to go, but by a small margin.
Okay.
But strange as it seems, after all these years, both sides in Northern Ireland are now discussing withdrawing from England.
Okay, but see, what I don't understand is it has to do with their economy, and does it have to do with their? When I say their economy, part of it is, you know how like in Europe you have the euros.
Right.
They didn't have that in Britain. We still had to use pounds, right?
That's true, but they were still part of the European Economic Union.
Yeah.
And they had open borders and all these kind of things.
And trade deals.
A large part of this vote was the European Union is making us accept immigrants.
Okay.
So it was sort of like Trump. It was anti-immigrant phobia.
Oh.
If we stay in this thing, we might have to accept Syrians and Muslims, and we want out.
And then there were these ultra, like this guy that came here from England, very conservative, very right wing, and I mean this.
They considered they'd sacrifice some of their ancient sovereignty by being
okay. But the man who stepped down as prime minister,
he was in favor of the union, and he lost. He also left because he's the one who called the election that he lost.
Right. So, but when he called the election, and those two women were supposed to run against one another, and then one of them just said, fudge it, and she stepped down, right? So she just automatically threw it to that other lady.
She didn't want to deal with. It's going to be very difficult over the next few years to disengage themselves.
Yeah.
And a lot of decisions will be made. And probably whoever is sitting in there, who in this case is Mrs. May, will be remembered in history in presiding over the demise of the British economy.
And she will be the second female prime minister, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the other one was referred to as the Iron Lady.
That's right.
What was her name?
Margaret Thatcher.
Thank you very much.
Maggie. The Iron Lady.
Maggie Thatcher. So
just to change the rhythm of the evening, I would bring up something called TEFF, T-E-F-F, which in Ethiopia is the most important food grain that they have, and it's very high in minerals. But the Ethiopian government says, and the farmers themselves there in Ethiopia, that if they start exporting it, not only won't they have any of enough food for everybody in the country, but they'll have this problem themselves with the money, because the Americans will pay more for it. This happened with another food. I can't remember the name of it.
Well, the people in Uganda who live around Lake Victoria, for 3,000 years they did very well living off the copious fish supplies in Lake Victoria. But now with the world markets and everything, nobody who lives near Lake Victoria eats any fish in their entire lifetime because it's too valuable and expensive for export.
Oh.
So there's the fish right there in the water that you're looking at, and you can't afford to have it.
Doesn't make much sense.
Now, an interesting thing, talking about grains, is that the export of European barley malt
beer
has taken off right through the roof, because there are now thousands and thousands of craft brewers in the United States.
Oh, okay.
And almost all of them have a fetish for European malt. And they're importing so much malt here to make craft beer that the exports of malt from Europe have gone up like 7 times.
Hey, you go into these restaurants or bars, and they'll have 150 craft beers on there.
So when I have an English or British moment and I put malt vinegar on my chips, should I feel like I'm
Well, you've
destroying
got to
the economy?
No, but you've got to make sure that you've got an esoteric malt vinegar, you know.
Of course.
You won't, you can be like one of those tasters, you know. Do you have the proper of the 37 varieties of malt?
Okay.
And as
Do you wrap it in newspaper too while you're at it?
as Donald Trump says, and what the H do you have to lose?
Yes, a wonderful slogan. Vote for me. What do you got to lose?
That's what he said.
Only your democracy.
That's right.
Only your life.
What do you think of that?
Only your income.
Yeah,
An adolescent,
Potential.
bigoted bully.
he is. So what did I see here about Singapore? Singapore
I don't know.
has launched a driverless electric car, which is now being traveling the streets of the main.
They're probably safer
city.
than most of the drivers we have
Really?
around.
Yeah.
Because they don't drink and drive.
I thought that was pretty good, though. And then at Harvard Square,
Oh,
I was
they
just looking
might-
at
They
this.
might throw the
the
out-of-town
news-
newsstand out. That would be terrible. Do they have no idea what gives it its class and its culture? The mayor says it's a public institution. Yes, and that's what it is, and that's like tearing down the Eiffel Tower. My friend,
Yeah.
play.
well, we that
Play.
close?
Don't look, play.
No, it's still got 30 seconds.
Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. We'll see you in our dreams.
In 2 weeks.
Good night, Irene. Good night, everybody, from the Fun Show here at Big TV. We won't be on next week because it's Labor Day.
Oh, Labor Day. That's correct.